Sometimes like one problem would take me 2-3 days.
Ollie Andersen-Cox, the CEO and founder of Pingfluence.
Learning to do the back end, front end and all of that. I kind of wish I hadn't just partied as much as I did. I had no idea about raising money or businesses or anything. So there's all these things and you spend hours and hours just doing it whilst working 2 full-time jobs. So we're able to innovate quicker. We have an amazing community. Our app is just awesome.
Any moments where you thought, I really wish I could just stop this now?
It's a good question. Although it sucks, it's a roller, it sucks at times. The highs are amazing, the lows are crap. Well, I think we're aiming to close this round this next month. The product has to be amazing. If you have the idea, just go and do it.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the CEO Journey podcast, where we talk about all things business and entrepreneurship. Today, I'm joined by an absolutely incredible entrepreneur, Ollie Andersen-Cox, the CEO and founder of Pingfluence. Ollie, how are you doing? How's life treating you?
Good, Tom. How are you? How's things?
Yeah, no, very well. And looking forward to filming this episode. I know you've got a great story behind you. So, looking forward to diving deep into that. But I guess, to kick it off, Ollie, basically just give a brief introduction about who you are, what you're currently doing, what Pingfluence is, etc.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers, Tom. So, I'm Ollie. I'm 30 and, the founder of Pingfluence. And yes, I mean, it's got quite an interesting story, but ultimately Pingfluence is an influencer marketing app. And it's aimed at solving the problems that currently exist within the influencer marketing landscape, most of them being taking ages for you to do collaborations. There's no consistency. The system in general just feels a bit broken. And there's sort of a lack of community within the influencer marketing landscape where influencers are not able to come together as a community easily. So we're aiming to solve that.
No, amazing. So where did it all start for you then, Ollie? Take us back to, your earliest context. Were you always entrepreneurial or, were you just a normal lad? Take us back.
I think it's pretty weird. I still probably am. So I remember back in school, you find business studies really interesting. I think mostly because the idea of having a yacht sounded pretty exciting. But I was really interesting how things worked and how, particularly looking at some of the massive businesses and going, how on earth did they sort of get to the level they are? And thinking, sort of breaking that down always, I found quite interesting. When I went traveling in Bali years ago, probably 6 years ago. And I would do visa, and every I'd say it was about 8 weeks, you'd have to go out of the country, come back in. It's not really allowed. And every time I go to a different country, I used to thought it's an excuse to travel. And obviously, places like Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, all these awesome places, I found it quite hard to find anything that wasn't touristy trapped. So finding the really cool places that all the locals would know about, or finding there's amazing rooftop bars was always quite tricky. And so I thought, I've done a computer science degree. Let's build an app for this. And that's where Ping Culture was born. And the idea with that was to showcase in an easy and convenient place, the coolest places all around the world. And you could basically tap into any element or aspect of the venue from a user. So it's all in one place. Because at the moment, London's very well geared, but anywhere else around the world is quite hard to book, to go to events all in one place. It's all different places and it's a bit convoluted. So it was a bit sort of raggedy and jumped into that, started coding, learning to do the back end, front end and all of that. And from there, we managed to sort of put something together, me and my co-founder, Sam, who I pulled on about 6 months in. And then Ping Culture was born. And it wasn't until it was about 6 months ago, we sort of realized Ping Culture didn't have the legs, and we tried every sort of avenue to monetize it. And we started looking into the influencer marketing landscape. And the reason we looked in was the app itself. Whenever we would offer a business, I guess we were pimping out our influencer mates as such, but we would offer that, hey, listen, we're friends with this guy. How about we bring him down, do some content? And it was sort of, the idea was to sort of get in and have a chat and see if we could get them as a client. And every time we do that, they would be so interested. It's like, wow, an influencer can come do some content. And then that sort of triggered looking into it, and that's where Pingfluence was born.
Wow. So Ping Culture, that was a separate business then?
Same business, but now it's Pingfluence by Ping Culture.
Okay. And sort of like, what was the aim around Ping Culture? Like, why Ping Culture in a sense?
As in, why the name, or why the business?
Yeah, sort of like, because obviously Ping's coming up twice, so I guess like I'm sort of wanting to understand, the meaning behind the brand in a sense.
Yeah. So it's quite easy to sum up. Is if you think about when someone asks you to send you an email or a bit of information, they'll often say, "Oh, ping me that email, ping me this, ping me that."
Yeah.
And to me, that resonates very much as getting something done quickly, efficiently. It's to sort of ping it over. And that's how I really saw the business with Ping Culture. Was it's no one has time to go and look on Google for hours. How often do you go past the first? Never.
Exactly.
Just want to find things quickly and efficiently. And I thought that works really well. And also the fact that this is a worldwide app, trying to find the most culturally amazing restaurant, it just made sense. And it actually fits beautifully with Pingfluence, because that's what we're all about. Our core is making collaborations more efficient, making the influencer marketing landscape more efficient. And we are making collaborations happen pretty damn quickly, almost in ping me that, ping it over, ping a collaboration.
I think the name's great, and it really does sort of like get you out there in a way, and it's incredibly catchy. So, massive props to that. But like, obviously, no, definitely. But obviously you said that you went to, you went to uni, so you studied computer science there. What was your experience like at uni? Did you manage to set anything up in uni, or try with different like side hustles, as people coin it nowadays?
Not really. I think at uni I was a bit out of my depth. So I did computer science purely for my interest in how things worked. And I remember the first day of lecture, it just dawned on me how prepared everyone else was apart from me. And I was sat there, sort of, there are businesses on code. One guy created an operating system, and you're like, we're like 18. And I was sort of there struggling with it. I felt a bit out of depth. And it wasn't until final year, I'd managed to squeeze through getting the nerds to help me. And I got to the final year, and there was a project, and they listed all these tasks, and it was worth 80% of the grade. And I remember reading this list. It was like, build an operating system, build a virtual reality thing. No, can't do that. God. And I got to one that said, build a web app, to the lecturer about it. And he just told me about this thing called AngularJS, which is a framework. And because I was relating it to fitness, it all started to make sense. I started to code this app which would build your diet plan and an exercise routine based on your goals and things like that. It was nowhere near as advanced as the rest of the class, but I made it look really, really nice. And so the lecturers loved it, and I got the highest grades, and it was quite inferior. I blagged it, I'd say. And that's where the sort of coding background came from. I did get good at it eventually.
Amazing. Like, obviously, you said about learning AngularJS at uni, and like one question that I'd pose and sort of frame it in a different way is like, looking back at that period, do you regret going to university? Because in a sense, like, obviously you've got the experience, which is amazing, but then with the teaching and the education that you attained, do you think you can sort of learn it yourself without doing a degree in a sense? So do you sort of like regret that aspect? Maybe regret isn't the right word to use, but if you can sort of gauge where I'm from.
Yeah, so it's a good question, because I am of the opinion you do not need a degree this day and age to go and be successful. I think it would be wrong to say you don't need it, because, for example, I've got lots of friends who did economics and they are in finance, and you do need it. But I think if you want to go into the real aspects, you don't need a degree. You just need a passion and the motivation to go and do it. And I think it's summed up beautifully wrong by just do the thing. Just Nike got it right. Just go and do it. So I would say I don't have a regret for doing it, because I had an amazing time at university and met some of the coolest people, couple of them are still best mates. And so I wouldn't say I regret it. However, I could have done what I've done off the back of YouTube and Udemy and tutorials. In fact, none of my uni degree has relevant. It's all stuff I could have learned on the fly. So if you're looking to do computer science, sack it off. Go and you could do Udemy. I promise you.
Save that $9,000.
Exactly.
No, definitely. And like, obviously, you know, we've said about, like, you know, meeting amazing people and having the sort of best experience, but I would also say as well, like, it's a perfect opportunity to just like delve into things and try new things, because you don't realize it, but you actually have so much free time on your hands. And a lot of people will choose it to use it in sort of like, you know, fun ways, you know, going out, clubbing, all that sort of stuff. That's all fun and that's all good, but like, there's other opportunities to just really dive into things, maybe try new businesses, etc. So I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think it's a place where you learn to find yourself, which is ultimately where I think the not having regrets comes from, because I guess you go in, most people go in quite shy and I guess open-minded, and you do a lot of things which work, don't work. You merge with people. You're forced to be in a group with people who you might not necessarily like, but it does alter who you are. And if you're, how do I sum this up? If you're introspective, you'll realize things and your personality will really come out and you start to have more faith in yourself. I certainly did. And I will say, I think you're spot on. I kind of wish I hadn't just partied as much as I did and done some other useful hobbies. And I think towards the final year I did with the gym and the sort of programming. But yeah, first 2 years, you just go and party like mad. And you're like, no, this is fun. This is great.
Yeah, no, like everything's hurting at that point. Body, bank account, all that sort of stuff, mate. But yeah.
Hangovers again, don't they?
Oh, don't even get me started on them. I've had some of the roughest hangovers at uni, and the next day, you think about it. You're like, oh, the thought of going out is, you know, so exciting, and then the next day it's just filled with instant regret and anxiety.
Those 12 vagabonds and just standing around. It's weird if you ever enjoy clubbing, because it's actually shit. It's excuse my language. It's pretty rubbish. You literally just stand. Normally, the music at uni is not your preference. Weird.
No, I completely agree, mate. So after uni, then, you know, what was the route? Was it I'm guessing you took like a corporate route instantly, or, you know, what happened there essentially?
I got a job at a sort of programming summer school, teaching kids how to program, which is cool.
Okay. Wow.
And then one of the parents offered me a job as a pre-sales consultant, and I was like, oh, great, cool. I've got a way in through the boss. Amazing. It's just such a boring job. And I remember thinking, like, is this really what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? And then I got offered the opportunity to work for a startup building an app. And I remember being like, this is cool. This is like, it's very ad hoc, like there's no day-to-day plan. It's just, proper startup life. And that piques my interest. However, the boss was, again, looking back, I understand why he was the way he was. He was a bit of an arse. But then when you actually do it yourself, the startup, you realize the pressures, and sometimes it gets the better of you, and you say and do things which are not ideal. So looking back, I kind of get it. Anyway, I went on a lad's holiday to Bali, did the whole met a girl, fall in love, and decided I wanted to go traveling for a bit. And I'm quite, I just sort of do things at whim. So I was like, okay, let's go traveling for around Southeast Asia. And then I lived in Bali for 2 years, pretty much just partying and having a good time, which is awesome.
Why Bali?
That's just where I settled. That's where I met my ex this was years ago. And I just loved it. I just thought it was the best vibe ever. People were cool. It's cheap. Living on a beach every day. It was paradise. It was completely detaching me from reality.
Definitely. So, because I know like a lot of entrepreneurs and like a lot of people in the digital space tend to move to Bali. And I assume because it's, you know, really cheap, and I guess because now there's a concentration of those sort of people out there, you know, in terms of networking, if you're in that space, it could be pretty crucial. So did you meet like any sort of like, you know, business owners, entrepreneurs, anyone who, you know, was it a good networking opportunity, or was your head not in that space at that time?
I think it's a good question. I was working for some German guys who ran a boat party, and they were trying to build a really cool brand. So I was around that in essence, but they weren't the best role models. I won't go into details why. And so that was my only experience of that. But I sort of threw myself into web design for clients around Bali. So I kind of was a bit of a lone ranger in that respect. I think the landscape in Bali now has definitely changed. And there are so many freelancers and entrepreneurs that, I mean, I went to Bali 6 months ago and I met so many entrepreneurs. So it's very different now. But back then, I don't think I truly knew what I wanted to do. And of course, the idea for Ping only came in the sort of last 2 months of Bali.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, what was now getting onto like the idea stage of Ping, like, can you remember that exact moment where you were like, I've got something here, let's try it out?
Yeah, I do. I actually remember it really well. I've got a picture because I was sat next to a cat. One of my, so the island in Bali, firstly, it's called Gili, and they don't have any dogs on the island. It's just cats, and they're everywhere. They're just like there's a cat there and there. And my mate owned one of these weird, super fluffy cats, and he would walk it around the island. So thinking back, this is really weird. And I was like, yeah. So I'm walking down to the beach, and I was sort of sat there. It's just sat next to me, and someone got a picture, and that was roughly at the time. And I remember cycling home to my where I lived, and just being so excited about this idea. I was like, I can make this. This is something I can do, and just throw myself into it, which is really, really cool.
So how did you go from like the idea stage then to having? I'm guessing did you build out some tech first, given your technical background, or you know what was the process from that, you know, initial stage idea to stage number one, whether it be building a prototype, etc.
I mean, it was pretty much just throwing myself into it. So I'm quite an impatient person, and I truly believe this as an entrepreneur. I was talking to my flatmate about this the other day. You can be someone who plans meticulously, addresses all these things and during your planning process, but ultimately, until you're doing the thing, you're just avoiding doing the thing. So I just sort of went and started coding it. And I remember coming across a framework that happened because I'm quite lazy in a sense that I couldn't be bothered to go and learn to code apps. And I would look for solutions that code in AngularJS as an app. And there happened to be a framework that native, and it's now all the rage, called Ionic. And so I just started playing around with it, and from there, just built out this really shitty prototype. But it's exciting at the time. You're like, wow, I'm doing something. And I didn't know anything about sort of infrastructure and all of this. So it was just very ad hoc, messy, but quite exciting.
Yeah, and like obviously because you were developing it yourself, you know, a question I have is like, did you have to front capital for it, or you know, because obviously you're the sole developer, you're not hiring team, you're not like, did you have to raise capital, or did you have to put your money up front for it to get it to that prototype stage?
No, I just coded away. There wasn't even a thought of raising money. I had no idea about raising money or businesses or anything. And I was naive and ignorant as they come. So I just coded for a few months, put the idea to bed because, I didn't really have that much faith in being able to build my own business. And it wasn't until a breakup with this girl where I just decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do this business idea. And that's where I moved to Cape Town and really started going for it. And I'd spend like 18 hours a day just coding. And then realized sort of 6 months in, this was just a huge project because we had the business dashboard, the app, all the infrastructure. Most of the day was spent sort of trial and erroring things I didn't know how to use. So I pulled in my co-founder, Sam, who's taken on, he's basically the sole coder now. He's brilliant. And yeah, it just sort of messily took shape.
Yeah. No, 100%. And how did you test the idea? Was it with that first prototype, or did you iterate from that to build something more substantial to then go out and test in the market?
We just started building what we thought was right. So we never really, this is something it was a bit of a bitter pill to swallow. I never really tested it. I think I did what a lot of people will do is, it's like when say you're a vapor and you'll Google benefits of vape, you're obviously going to find articles towards the benefits. And I sort of do that in terms of businesses. I would find a business and I'd ignore anyone who said they didn't really feel they needed this and just focus on the one that was like, yeah, this is great. And be like, cool, this means it's going to work. So we didn't actually release it because we kept sort of iterating. It's not ready. Didn't release it till just before COVID. And then we were like, shit, can't really do anything with it now because everything's down.
Yeah.
So, that was a bit.
Yeah. And obviously, like, you know, you have your co-founder, Sam. So you might have said it before, but like, where did you meet him? Was he at the prior startup, or am I getting confused? Like, how did that relationship?
Right. At college, we were both heavily into ICT, little sort of nerdy idiots who just got on. And he then came to my uni for a sesh, when I was in freshers. He came down, we had a great time. He was like, this uni seems cool. I'm going to do computer science. I may as well come here. And we said in the computer rooms, we're like, you know what, we should probably start a business one day. And it was obviously the voice for when I was, looking to develop it.
Yeah, and like, there's like early stages. So I'm talking like the first, 12 to 18 months where, you would think everything's going like haywire. It's a very steep learning curve. How did you cope with those sort of like experience? Like, how did you take to it essentially, those very early stages of you building Ping?
I just kind of loved it. I remember I'd literally be up at 6, sort of at the table for 6 days, 7, coding. Sometimes like one problem would take me 2-3 days. Because, for example, if I was coding back-end technology, which I had no idea about, it was just going off guides online. So you'd sort of run it wouldn't work, run it again, look for the error. So there's all these things, and you'd spend hours and hours just doing it whilst working 2 full-time jobs. And I never really found it an issue, sort of just plowing through, enjoying that we were building towards something, because I felt I had a purpose. Yeah. So I really, the only hard times I've found during Pingfluence Ping is when I've had to struggle to pay salaries, which is always, I think, as any entrepreneur knows, that is like the one problem that keeps you up at night. The real thing is when dealing with other people's salaries. It's pretty stressful. But we've just actually come out of a period of, I guess, basically we've just come out of a period of hard work and craziness, and things have started to really go up as we lock in the investment, which is great.
Amazing. And like, obviously, with your business, I assume that you needed like a strong list of like influencers. Did you have personal networks with those influencers, or were you just outreaching to them? Likewise with the brand side as well.
Good question. So because my head of sales and also very good friend Viwe, he came over from South Africa and was working with me on Ping Culture for sort of 5 months before I decided, right, let's just pivot this. And me and him had sort of got this connection of influencer friends through just, having mates in the industry. And so it made it a lot easier when we launched Pingfluence to just reach out to them and say, hey, do you mind doing a little post? You'd be very surprised how many mates who are influencers will not do any posts, not posts, but stories or even help slightly. That was quite an eye-opener. And vice versa. You also had some who were bloody awesome and just wanted to help in every way possible. So that was a really interesting experience. London for you. And then for restaurants, because of Pink Culture, we'd spoken to hundreds and hundreds of restaurants. And regardless of they sort of were interested or not, we had that connection. We had the email we needed. So it made it a lot easier to get venues on board. And so, yeah, we were in, I guess Pink Culture had its benefits, basically, towards what we're doing now. It really did have the work we did wasn't for nothing.
No, definitely. And how did you sort of like pitch it to those restaurants? Because obviously, I think that like that sort of industry is quite stuck in its ways, as in a sense that it's quite shy to new technologies, and a lot of them could be like family-run businesses, and they sort of don't want anything disruptive in a good way or bad way coming in. So like, how did you pitch it to them? And like, yeah, essentially, like, what was your framework?
So, I mean, again, let's just go for it. We knew how powerful influencer marketing was, and you're probably well aware as well, the change from Instagram and all of that being about, look at how perfect my life is, look at all these amazing restaurants, to authenticity. Like, foodies they're huge these days, and their content might not be the most polished, but people love it and they create the viral trends. And as well as that, the completely pruned influencers, they don't do so well anymore. It's people don't want to feel like they're fucking nothing. Do you know what I mean? And these influencers would often make them feel like that by proxy. So that move to authenticity played in our favor big time. And also the viral trend, Instagram, helping, you see places with massive queues out the front. That's all because of social media. So we kind of had the proof right away. But for us to go to a small business and go, listen, you can now sign up to our platform, list offers, influencers with 10 million followers could see you and decide, yeah, you know what, I'm going to come down. As well as that, you could get 5, 10, 20 influencers a month coming down to try your meal and posting content. You get consistent, amazing content. It's an easy sell, if I'm honest. It's influencer marketing is killing it.
No, definitely. And like, how does the business model work?
So I won't go into too much detail there, but we work with businesses on a paid basis. So we'll choose who we work with, and we'll create influencer marketing campaigns around them, as well as the platform offering, just to sort of I guess the word is self-service way to create offers and work with influencers.
Right. Okay. And like, I assume that, for example, that there are other like influencer marketing platforms out there, and like, obviously, yours is one of the successful ones, and it's still growing, etc. And it's alive and growing, as I said. But like, how did you position Pingfluence to sort of knock out those other competitors and make those restaurants think, I want to go with this one, screw all the other ones?
Well, I think it's really interesting is a competition, although it's very frustrating when you see competitors pop up and do what you're doing. We've had 2 of our competitors change their entire business model since we've come on the scene and mimic what we're doing. And that's because where we feel our core is the community. We were always set on creating a community, creating a platform, and I guess platform where influencers can meet each other. Because a lot of the time, what we found is influencers feel very isolated and not part of a community. And through Pingfluence, we always thought, let's bring these people together. Let's get them sharing ideas, creating these innovations together. And we did that through our events. So we had an idea. The events were always going to be targeted at getting influencers into a venue to have an amazing time and meet each other. And you can see as the influencers would trickle into these events, they're quite sheepish and not really knowing what to expect. And now we've got sort of people who come to every single event. They preach to their mates about how great it is, and you see them going out together to an event. It's just awesome. And I think that's been our real secret sauce, is we have this amazing community of really, really cool people who not only just support us, they're creating this amazing content off the back of us. So that was one element. And secondly, we build the technology. So we know when a business comes to us, they sign on, they tell us all the problems they're having, we fixed within a day, 2 days. And I don't think our competitors can match that without shipping out sort of thousands and thousands of pounds. So we're able to innovate quicker. We have an amazing community, and our app is just awesome.
So do a lot of
sort of sells itself, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And like the tech aspect that you mentioned, that's quite interesting. So do a lot of, influencer marketplaces, do they outsource their tech development then? So they don't actually have the ability to be able to tweak it directly if needs be?
I'd imagine so. I mean, I can't speak for any other of our influencer tools, but a startup getting an in-house developer, you need the investment to do that, or you need a technical faculty. Luckily, myself and Sam are technical. So I would imagine that's how they have to do it. And given the sort of, I won't name any names, but we'll see competitors come out with features we've launched 6 months prior. So I'd imagine it's taken them sort of 3-4 months to get that feature copied and then released, which is great.
No, definitely, yeah. And like, what would you say has been your sort of like key to scale and key to growth?
Good question. I think scaling we're probably still in the process of it. So we're learning so much every day. And I think with scaling, luckily tech-wise, that's something I built into the app from the get-go, is we need to make sure everything is built with a scalable, is built scalable. So that's sort of covered. And then in terms of with the sort of typical day-to-day business scaling, we're addressing each problem as it comes, basically. So it's just, we're very quick to innovate. So dealing with scaling is ongoing. But yeah, we're finding it quite enjoyable because it means we fix the app, make it better, and deal with the issue there and then.
Amazing. And like, in terms of like the team and stuff, how big is that at the moment?
How many is there? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
So
yeah, so we just brought in, actually a really cool story. We just brought in one of our initial influencers. He showed an interest in joining us, and he's now become part of our team, and he's crushed. Awesome.
And I'm guessing his role is more about like bringing on more influencers. So as a sales standpoint, is that the case?
No, he's actually selling to businesses. He's got a background in sales, and he's a weapon at it. So yeah, helping us grow our events and things like that.
All right, amazing. And like a bit more of a general question, maybe quite hard to answer, but have you had sort of like any moments whilst you've been building and running Pingfluence, or and Pink Culture, like any moments where you thought like, I really wish I could just like stop this now, like everything's coming on you, like you've got a load of shit on your back essentially?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'd say the last 6 months has had elements of that pretty much every week, because it's been obviously before the pivot was just general stress of fuck, am I going to have to give up here? And then from the pivot, that huge motivation of here we go, this is awesome, this idea, that feeling you mentioned earlier of let's go, to each sort of pain point that's happened along the way, like, oh God, now we've got this huge influx, how do we handle it? And just the fact you don't really have a life. When you're flat out, you're sort of so busy. And obviously we get invited to a lot of venues now that we partner up with, and you kind of don't really get to enjoy them because you're not there to do that. We're there, I'm sort of filming videos to then put on the app. So it's kind of non-stop, but although it sucks, it's a roller, it sucks at times. The highs are amazing, the lows are crap. They even out. And I'm very confident we're going to be in a very, very good position by the end of this year where we can take a little bit of a breath and we'll feel a lot better.
No, 100%. And like the past 6 months where it's been, pretty stressful, do you look at that as a time of growth and development, coming out the other end of it now?
Yeah, I think it's probably a mixture. There's been so many lessons. I think because we've finally got to experience that crazy startup life of having customers, having money coming in, having these sort of issues arise. There's been so many learning points that I think you couldn't class it as anything else. It's been one massive lesson, super exciting. But yeah, I thoroughly agree. I'd say it's probably been the biggest point of growth I think I've ever experienced in my life.
No, definitely. And like looking, so did you raise capital? Have you raised funds then? Because I can remember you saying that you.
So we're raising at the moment. We literally had the chunk come into the bank today, which is awesome. But I actually raised. Thank you very much. I raised for Pink Culture. I don't know how I did it, to be honest, because we weren't making any money. But yeah, we managed to raise for Pink Culture. Obviously, spaffed through it before the classic, before the pivot. Raised a little bit now, and I've actually got another investor coming tonight. So yeah, raising as we speak again, but this time with money coming in and real good projections coming in.
How do you find those investors?
I don't actually know. I did a lot of reaching out through LinkedIn. Last time I probably reached out to like 5,000 investors, and we got like 4 come back, and none of them invested. But it's actually been through. It's quite a cool story. My current investor I met in Cape Town, or my first investor, who friends and family round, I met whilst we were partying at a festival, and I chewed his ear off about my business. And he came back to Cape Town a couple of months later and was like, "Are you still doing this business?" And yeah, ended up investing. And then when lockdown happened, I went out to Dubai. I was one of those cheeky guys who was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'll pretend I've got a work trip." Went out to Dubai, and that current investor at the time was like, "Oh, I'm coming out as well." And so we're like best mates now. So I was basically pestering him, go, "Dude, when can I come join you for a bit?" And he was like, "Oh, I've got business meeting. And then just one night he's like, "Now, come." And I go to meet them, and they're all getting smashed doing a business deal. 2 of the lads are now the investors, the sort of pre-seed investment guys, 50. So yeah, found them on the sesh, I guess.
That's great. And like, is another capital raise, predicted for the future? And like what would be the time frame when you have to raise again, essentially?
Well, I think we're aiming to close this round this next month. And the idea of that is to then have the proof that, listen, we are going in the direction, because we could go for a massive raise this round, but I think it's better to raise a smaller amount to get that growth and cover what we need it. And then in 9 months, a year, go for the big sort of next round, which is where we'll look to expand into sort of other countries and really, really grow the business. But I think we really need to prove that we can use this small 250K effectively and do what we plan to do. And then we can go in comfortably saying, "Listen, we proved this, now we need more."
And do you reckon for that like international expansion, you'll need VC backing or like angels?
Yeah.
Or
probably VC.
VC. Yeah.
VCs.
No, that's interesting. And like, on that point, sort of looking into the future in a sense, where do you see Pingfluence? Obviously, you've mentioned that you want international expansion. Have you got any countries in mind which would really sort of like benefit and attract a load of users for yourself? So yeah, like what's like the 5-year plan, or do you not have a plan? Are you just gonna take it as it comes?
We have got a plan this time, although I think the 5-year plans at this stage are quite bonkers because things change so quickly as a startup. I think it's almost it's a bit bizarre having 5 years worth, because you just don't know. 3 years we're pretty solid on. So yeah, we want to go in Cape Town and Dubai next, because Cape Town we feel we can take very quickly because of our connections, and the market there is perfect for it. Then Dubai is our next target, as again, our investors are in Dubai. We're very well connected there and the market is perfect. And then it would be US. I think the US is just the obvious 3-year mark. And that's essentially where that big money would be used for. And it's such a big market. So yeah, we've got plans in place for all of that. Exciting times ahead for sure.
And sort of like, what's the intricacy of international expansion? Is it as easy as like just having like connections out there and then being able to set up like a hub there, or what are the technicalities that really come with that?
Well, I think it's a really good question. I was actually talking to Mark Wright, who was one of the apprentice winners way back when, and he summed this up beautifully. He was like, and it's such an obvious thing, but the product has to be amazing. So many businesses are able to get past with a crap product, but ultimately they fail because the product is just not good enough. And that's where I feel it makes the expansion a lot easier. We have the mechanism set up to deal with payments from Dubai, America already. We're ready to go there. We've set up all the technology to spread across the CDS and the infrastructure as we grow into those countries. So it is just a case of having someone, a professional, come and help us get the legalities right and do that process properly. And I'm sure we'll realize a lot as we get there. But in terms of being prepared tech-wise and product-wise, I think we're there.
Amazing. I think that's like, you answered that perfectly, because I think a lot of people, when they talk about international expansion, they sort of like skim over it and don't go into like the detail, which is really important because it's not as easy as like people can profess it to be. So I think you like hit the nail on the head with that. So yeah, I'm glad I asked that. But yeah, like probably like sort of like a final question, and one that I always ask, because I think it's so important, and it's probably like a bit of a reflective piece, is, what would be your sort of like top 3 piece of advice that, looking back at your whole journey, you would give to, your 18-year-old self or someone in the same position as you at a young age? What would those top 3 pieces of advice be?
I'd say just do it being the first one. Well, I guess it comes, this piece of advice comes with 2 facets. Read the book Shoe Dog and then just go and do it. If you have the idea, just go and do it. You'll find by throwing yourself into it that you are able to approach problems and learn a lot faster than if you have this crazy plan for something, because you can plan as hard as you like, but when you actually get into it, you'll realize the intricacies and the learning points. So, and also a lot of the time people will just say, no, next year when I'm ready, I'll do it. And you will do that like I did for a long time. You're never going to be ready. Just go and do it. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'm trying to think back of all the...
You don't have to give 3, by the way.
Ask. Wow, you made me big, so I'll go for 2 or 3. But I think just ask. Just go and ask. You don't ask, you don't get, that kind of thing, because a lot of the time, particularly Brits, we're a bit weird about asking for what we want based on an anxiety we've created. You never have any idea what the other person's going to say. So you may as well just ask or just confront the issue and you'll get to what you need a lot faster. I'll see if I can find a 3rd. Here's a good one. Pull back. So a very good friend gave me this advice. And sometimes it's very easy to, this kind of contradicts the first point, but it's in a sense of, it's very easy to go full throttle into something and not sort of take a breath. So when you get to a point where you're feeling maybe a bit overwhelmed or dealing with a lot, you can simply pull back. And the phrase goes, to catapult, you need to pull back. And I found that to be so true, is sometimes just taking a breath, stepping back for a little bit and giving yourself a bit of recovery and a bit of time can often be the biggest spur for being successful.
Great. And amazing free piece of advice, especially that last one. Never heard of that before. So, some absolute incredible value there. So yeah, no, thank you, Ollie. I think that's a great place to end the podcast on. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. As I said, a lot of value. Any last words for the viewers? Anywhere where they can, find you? Read about, Pingfluence. Obviously, you've got your website. Can they hit you up on LinkedIn if they've got any questions?
Yeah. Just Ollie Andersen on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to answer questions and share ideas. Pingfluence is the website where you'll find everything. We've actually got some really interesting articles about some of our influencers. We like to shout about what they're up to. So check that out. That's a really cool place to learn about some really cool people doing really cool things.
Amazing. Well, as I said, thank you very much, Ollie. And for the viewers out there, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Really appreciate the support, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.